Well, in just a handful of days, the national health emergency is going to be lifted, and in turn, Illinois' national or state health emergency that Governor J.B. Pritzker has been putting in place for more than 3 years now, 30-day consecutive disaster proclamations, all the executive orders. You remember, when he shut down businesses, said that Walmart could stay open, but shoe stores couldn't. He kept pot stores open and gun stores open, but told people not to go to church. He then told people that, hey, don't send your kids to school. Then the teachers' unions got involved, and they kept schools closed for an even longer duration than parents wanted. You had the learning loss. You had the businesses failing. You had the unemployment situation. You had all the COVID-19 fraud that's being revealed now. And that's, PPP money, the other tax dollars that went out to fraudulent unemployment claims that the state still doesn't know how much was there. You've got all of the dollars that we're finding out up in Cook County. There's a bunch of government people who took part in the PPP loans when they shouldn't have. It's amazing the stories that stack up, let alone all of the censorship that happened, and those who were questioning using logic and science, the method of science, you got a thesis, here's your hypothesis, and test it, and then you get your peers to look at it and ask questions, and that was poo-pooed and called crazy conspiracy theories if you question the science. But here we are now, more than 3 years later, and there's still a lot to unpack of what happened in the past 3 years, where some say, hey, it was an effort to try to save the most vulnerable people from getting sick with a respiratory virus, which, by the way, did it come from a lab or not? Well, it used to be you couldn't even say that. Social media would censor it. But now it seems to be common knowledge that, that's the leading hypothesis, that this virus came from a lab out of China. But if you said that on some circles, it was instantly shut down and censored from social media, or you had certain talking heads calling you a COVIDiot, or part of the branch Covidians, seeming to make fun of the death of people at Waco, which was 30 years ago yesterday. You've got this ongoing problem of how do we get to the bottom of this? Well, we talked with Dr. Jane Orient back like 3 years ago about all of this, and she is somebody who raises questions about what was the popular science at the time. But now let's talk about the vaccines, because there's been some developments, and in particular, Jane, thanks for taking time with us this morning on WMAY. The FDA has removed its authorization of the use of the Moderna and Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, the monovalent vaccine. What should people take away from this? Good morning.
Well, I think you gave an excellent summary, Greg, of what has been going on. But now this vaccine that everybody was supposed to take or else lose your job has been acknowledged to not work anymore. I mean, it was supposed to be 95% effective. The protection certainly did not last forever. The one and you're done thing was just pure error. But now that they are not giving emergency use authorization at all for that vaccine, because the thing it's supposed to immunize you against is gone. And instead we have a whole variety of new variants. I think maybe they ran out of Greek letters, and now they're naming the new one Arcturus after a star. And so we've got a bivalent vaccine. We've got thousands of different viruses out there. There's no way of telling which one you're going to come in contact with, but they still want you to get the bivalent vaccine, which has the original vaccine that doesn't work anymore because the virus is gone, and plus another vaccine, and maybe it works against what's out there, and maybe it doesn't. The rules about who should get that are so complicated that it takes several pages to even write them down, so I don't know how you're going to figure them out.
Well, and obviously we want people to talk with their medical professionals about what's best for them. But early on when we were told about the vaccines, we were told this is going to end all the pandemic, and as you mentioned, people were forced to get the vaccines in order to keep their jobs. You had the issue with the military and preparedness, and then you had the issue of people who said that they were adversely impacted by the vaccine. I guess if you could focus in on the adverse reactions that were reported and how those were taken. Have we seen anything else similar in the level of adverse reporting that's officially done through various government regulators? Are they taking that seriously?
Well, they say that they are, but they may fire you if you are trying to report an adverse reaction to the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, or VAERS. They quote VAERS when they want to, but if you quote it for saying, well, there have been more than 30,000 deaths reported in association with the vaccine, it doesn't prove it's causal, but there sure are a whole lot more deaths occurring soon after this vaccine than after all of the other vaccines dating back to when the system went into effect, this official government system. So this certainly has more reports than all other vaccines over decades combined have. And it's not just deaths. It's disabling, probably permanent conditions. I mean, some of them as bad as blindness, strokes, other results of blood clots. All of these things are associated with the vaccines. Are they causal? Well, we're not doing the type of intense research that would be needed to show causality. But with any other drug or product, if you have this many reports coming up, they take it off the market. Then they do the research on it. But they don't leave it out there for everybody being an experimental subject with this big unknown hanging out there. Is this going to kill you or make you permanently disabled?
We're talking with Jane Orient. She is the executive director of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, medical doctor who's been one to raise substantial questions about the entirety of the COVID-19 situation and also the importance of actually having discussions based on science when it comes to new vaccine platforms like the mRNA. And we were told that this is going to stop COVID, but then we were told, well, it's going to keep you from spreading COVID, and those things didn't come true. And there's a lot of documentation showing that Pfizer in particular knew about that. And still, you had the policies in place from the Biden administration that was ultimately challenged, policies in place in the state of Illinois to require certain people to get the vaccine in order to keep their job. So tell us about, I guess, what we still have yet to find out from documents that Pfizer is just a slow drip putting out.
Well, they were trying to keep them secret for 75 years, and courts got involved. So now a whole lot of them are coming out. And if you look at their very own documents, there are hundreds of adverse events that should have been a safety signal that they were just trying to keep from the public. So we have something that has a small and transient effect on a virus that no longer exists, but the spike protein that the vaccine causes your body to make goes on and on and on, and we're not sure about for how long. But it's certainly in organs all over your body, including your testes and your ovaries and your heart and your lungs and probably your brain. And so it really is, you can ask your doctor about it, but maybe you should be informing your doctor that the FDA's own policy about emergency use authorization has changed. And in Switzerland, not only did they withdraw all the recommendations for this vaccine, but they have transferred the liability for any adverse reactions onto the doctor.
It's pretty incredible. We'll definitely have to connect again in the near future to discuss the latest developments, because of these developments happening this week with the FDA withdrawing authorization for the monovalent vaccine and the CDC changing some of their recommendations for who should get to the bivalent vaccine. So interesting to see how this has developed over the past 3 years. What kind of warning does this send, though, for the future?
Thank you, Greg. You've got an excellent summary, and it's really a great service to your listeners.
Appreciate it. And we'll talk in the future absolutely about what this means for how we should prepare in the future and what we should make sure we combat against when it comes to information and getting out a true dialogue on how to approach these things. Dr. Jane Orient, Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, appreciate that. It's now 8:20 on WM.